Way hey, 2 days in a row for Sceam Me Up Botty. And the idea right now is to do this podcast on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. And I'm dying in the hole. Like 2 days in a row is a friggin' accomplishment at this point. So bear with me. That's the idea that I'm trying to accomplish here is Monday through Friday, working my way through the Star Trek episodes. And I was getting the time to actually sit down and rewatch the episodes at times as well. Working full time plus doing this sort of thing. It doesn't leave a lot of time to actually sit down and watch the thing and plus record them. These here run for about 20 minutes per episode. The thing that was actually playing about with was the idea of introducing a video element to the podcast. Like I did one on the horror podcast that I have that's titled Hellmouth Hotline. If you're into your horror, go over and check that one out. It's on the website coinsagemedia.com. But I recorded one episode again and just had the camera going while I was recording it. But just thinking on a time-saving basis, it's. I think I might just stick to the audio all around as far as this sort of thing goes. It does go up on YouTube as well, and because there's no video element to it, it doesn't do that well over there. It's not doing that well here either, to be fair. But I enjoy it. The thing about the video is you have to actually get yourself tidied up before you sit down to record a podcast. And if you're just doing the audio thing, you can sit about in your underwear and do it, which I'm doing now. And that is probably a visual you don't need in your head, but it is what it is. It's in there now. And yeah, enjoy. Take it home with you. Alright, so we're into Star Trek again, and this episode here is a fairly interesting little episode. Season 2, episode 14, Wolf in the Fold, and probably one of those episodes in Star Trek that I was going to say hasn't aged that well, but simply because the fact of a part of the storyline. Like, this is one of these episodes with modern day viewers sitting down to watch it. They're probably going to be, I'm offended at some of the elements to this episode, and it is what it is. Scotty has had an accident on the Enterprise, and at the beginning of the episode, Kirk and McCoy and Scotty, they're on a planet having therapeutic shore leave because of what happened. Scotty, he was injured due to a woman, essentially, and they're trying to get him. I'm trying to think of the way to put this into words. They're trying to get him used to women again. There's something going on with his head here that he doesn't trust women because he got hurt by one on the Enterprise. He got badly injured. It is what it is. So they're on this planet. They're in a nightclub, and there's women dancing there, dancing girls and whatnot. And again, something that you're going to see probably in your viewers going, I'm offended that women are being objectified in this episode. But it is what it is. Screw it. If you're that pepper thin, just stop watching TV altogether. At the nightclub, Argelius II, they introduce Scotty to this dancer called Kara. Scotty leaves with her, take her out for a little walk in the fog, and he's been all romantic with her. Off he goes. Kirk and McCoy make their way through the city. They're going to go to another nightclub to see some more women, essentially. But as they're walking down the street, they hear a scream and find that the dancer that Scotty left with is dead on the ground. Scotty's standing there against a nearby wall, clutching a knife. She's been stabbed to death. Scotty's detained and interrogated by Mr. Hengist, an administrator from Rigel 4, I want to say, and head of Argelius' police operations. Jarrus the prefect of the planet appears and introduces his wife, Sabo. They employ the Argelian empathic contact to determine the truth. So she can read minds more or less. She can do this sort of little ritual to bring out the truth, sort of thing. While she's preparing for the ritual, Lieutenant Karen Tracy is sent down from the Enterprise medical specialist. She's got a psycho tricorder with her, and she goes to interview Scott, and again, the same thing happens. You hear the scream, she's found dead. Scotty standing there again with a murder weapon. Sabo proceeds with the empathic. That's not a huge word, but it was one I had trouble with. She proceeds with this empathic contact ritual. The participants are sitting around a table holding hands, like a seance sort of a thing. So that point of the episode there, you're waiting for a little toffee crisp bar to float down from the ceiling. If you get that reference, 10 out of 10, you're an absolute friggin' legend. She begins to speak of a monstrous, terrible evil, a hunger that never dies, which has been named Kesla, Baratus, Rajak. And when I heard the word Baratus, the first thing that popped into my head was Army of Darkness, and the 3 words he had to use to open the book. And Baratus might even be one of them, but it was very similar. I can't recall what the 3 words were, but the Baratus is a little bit similar to one of them. If you do know what it is, let me know in the comments below this video. Epic film, it's just been that long since I've seen it. And if memory serves, the 3 words in that movie were taken from The Day the Earth Stood Still. Could be completely wrong about all that, but that sounds right in my head, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. So these names start coming out during the seance sort of thing. The altar fire in the room goes out, everything goes dark. Sabo screams when the light comes on. Scotty is holding her lifeless body in his arms. The prefect, over Hengist's objections, agrees to continue the investigation aboard the Enterprise. I was going to say investigation and Enterprise is in the same sentence there, and I'm looking at right now. And investor size was going to come out of my mouth. So I am Captain Kirk of the starship Investorize. Gosh, I should not record podcasts whenever I'm overly tired. This is cutting the episode in bits here. Like, I'm just hitting the main points over it. If you haven't seen them, go see it yourself. So the prefect, his wife's now dead, and he does agree to continue the investigation on the Enterprise. Both Scotty and Kara's fiancée, Marla, are questioned under accuracy scan by the computer. This is something that Kirk and the crew were trying to get earlier in the episode, but because they were on the planet, they had to go by the planet's laws, more or less. So until things escalated to the point it's at now, where the prefect has to agree to it to find out what happened 100%. He was so set on the abilities that his wife had to read people that was the only way he was going to take the evidence. So now they're on the computer, trusting the computer to work things out through this accuracy scan. So they're all been put through it. It confirms the testimony of both Kara's fiancée Marla and Scotty as well. Scott also speaks of a cold, evil presence during Sabo's ceremony, and the computer again verifies the accuracy of the statement. Kirk queries the computer on the names spoken by Sabo, including Rajak. The computer responds with Red Jack, a name given to the serial killer better known as Jack the Ripper. So, this is one of these episodes that, it has enough to keep you watching it, but there is a few moments in the episode you're kind of slipping out of it a little bit, and you're thinking to yourself, you're spending a little bit too much time here. dealing with stupid little things that don't really matter. Like, just to get to the point here, what's happening. Pacing isn't the greatest in it, but whenever it got to the stage where the serial killer named Jack the Ripper came out, that grabbed my attention. I was like, okay, this is interesting now. This has caught me interest in a big bad way. So yeah, the computer connects up Red Jack with the serial killer known as Jack the Ripper. That and Sabo's mention of a hunger that never dies suggests to Kirk that an immortal, non-corporeal entity might be involved. Baratus is found to be the name of a serial killer on Rigel 4. So if you look at the star chart, you can see like different planets where similar murders have happened over a certain period. So if you start stepping back from the planet they're on now to Rigel 4, other planets and whatnot, you'll eventually reach Earth. So this definitely leads into the Jack the Ripper thing. Okay, is Star Trek actually fighting against Jack the Ripper in this episode? Turns out that they pretty much are. So whenever Rigel 4 pops up, suspicion falls on Hengist, the guy that's over the security of this planet. Not least because of the murder weapon was also made in Rigel 4. Hengist at this point attempts to flee, so yeah, we've got the guilty party here. Kirk punches him in his face, apparently kills him, stone dead. Maniacal laughter is then heard coming from the computer. The entity has jumped from Hengist's body to the computer. Now it's able to control the ship, which could have led to some interesting stuff. You know, the possessed Enterprise would be a very interesting story to follow for a little bit, but this is all within the final minutes of the episode. Again, the pacing thing, like you don't find out what's going on or who's really behind pulling the strings until the final moments of it. The Enterprise crew is then threatened by this entity through the computer, over the comms and whatnot. It's going to do this, that and the other to them, and this is generating fear that it feeds on. Kirk orders Dr. McCoy to administer fast-acting tranquilizers to all hands so this thing can't get into their heads. So everybody, by the time we get to the end of the episode, are pretty much high as a kite and laughing and getting on, and including McCoy. He was like, somebody has to stay sober here, but Kirk orders him to inject himself anyway. So they're all off their trolleys coming up towards the end of the episode. Spock ties up the computer by ordering it to compute the value of pi to its last decimal point, and this is something that's going to keep the computer occupied for a few hours, which means the entity can't control the computer because that's too busy computing this. The entity then escapes the computer, and after attempting to possess Jarrus, it ends up returning to the body of Hengist, which we presumed was dead here, but it reanimates whenever the entity goes into it. He's immediately then tranquilized, and Kirk grabs him and carries him to the transporter room, where he beams this guy into space at maximum dispersion. So he's not going to reform out there. He's just everything of him, including the creature inside him, is just scattered across the stars, essentially, at the end of the episode. Spock notes that the entity will survive out there, but only as separate bits of energy before eventually perishing itself. And he then suggests that the tranquilized crew resume their shore leave because nobody's in the right frame of mind to do anything on the Enterprise. Interesting little episode. I think the pacing was a little bit off in this one, but I'm looking forward, as always in these podcasts, to check out the reception that it got when it first came out, or anybody else that's watched it since it came out. So there's quite a bit here as far as references go to the episode, or reception goes to the episode, sorry. So Zach Hanlon, he always pops up in these. The AV Club commented, "The women are treated like a completely different species. A repeated point of denunciation is Spock's infamous infamous remark that women are more easily and more deeply terrified, generating more sheer horror than the male of the species. So he says that from the episode. That's why I said at the beginning of the episode that, like a lot of the New Year's viewers watching this episode would be like, oh, I'm offended. My pepper fin sensibilities can't handle this shit. 2010, Tori Atkinson objected to Kirk's demand for a psycho tricorder, which McCoy says will give us detailed account of everything that happened to Mr. Scott in the last 24 hours. Atkinson wrote, seriously? All this time we've had a piece of technology that reads and records memories, and they've been using those archaic court-martials. Why ever investigate anything? This is easily the most ridiculous invention of the week that Star Trek has thrown out there so far. However, she added that it's nice to see Scotty front and centre and his abject terror at what's happening to him, and crying over feelings of powerlessness and dangers were moving. That didn't sound like good English. It's nice to see Scotty front and centre and his abject terror of what's happening to him and crying over the feelings of powerlessness and danger. That should be what it said there. She also liked the humour. There's a lot of good one-liners, particularly McCoy's line about having drugs that could tranquilise an active volcano, as well as the idea of a murder mystery in the Star Trek universe. That's essentially what this episode is, a murder mystery. So, Eugene Myers also liked the idea of a classic murder mystery with Star Trek characters, complete with a locked room murder where the lights go out, someone screams. That's a few interesting moments within the episode, but, again, I felt the pacing was a wee bit off in the lead up to the end of the episode. Myers wrote a negative review, although he admired some details such as the table lights used to show appreciation for good performance, an interesting detail of an alien culture that was sadly lacking for the rest of the episode, and the brief look at the foggy Argelian streets, purposefully executive of Whitechapel. Executive. There's some words I am not good at reading. That was one of them. He concluded that the episode feels like someone took some other plot and shoehorned Star Trek characters into it, which is pretty much what happened. That's a fair point. Reviewer Jeff Bond was mostly pleased with the episode. Robert Bloch's Wolf in the Fold is typical of both horror writers' contributions to the series. He also wrote the episodes What Are Little Girls Made Of and Cat's Paw. And at the show's second season, in year 2, Trek often presented some fairly dark and outlandish plot lines, but shook them up with humour. All of Bloch's Star Trek scripts threw classic horror tropes into the unfamiliar territory of science fiction in clever ways. All 3 episodes benefit from the creepy version of classic horror themes thrust into Star Trek settings. He also added, if you're planning on introducing your feminist girlfriend to Star Trek, Wolf in the Fold might not be the best starter episode. As I said again, spot on there, Isaac. When you're viewers to the franchise, seeing this episode, it'd be like, oh, please, my wee pepper fin sensibilities can't handle this at all. So he did say that. If you're going to introduce your feminist girlfriend to Star Trek, Wolf in the Fold might not be the best starter episode. It's equivalent of a slasher film in the way women are presented almost exclusively as victims for a marauding monster. That's compounded by the episode's vocabular warp-up in which the Enterprise command crew of hound dogs are eager to put the brutal murders of a few female citizens and crew members behind them by getting back down to our Argelius. It's offensive in retrospect, but Wolf in the Fold to my mind, makes up for a multitude of sins when it veers into black comedy territory late in the episode. Hengist is a superb foil. The offbeat idea of drugging the entire crew to keep the Red Jack entity harmless really moves the story into an unexpected direction and conjures up what, in my mind, has always been the funniest line ever uttered in Star Trek, which comes when Kirk and McCoy, when Kirk asked McCoy what the entity would do if it entered a tranquilized body, to which McCoy replies, "Well, it might take up knitting, but nothing more harmful than that." So yeah, it's a strange little episode as well. Melissa N. Hayes Janik of the University of Maryland pointed out, I think that's her surname, probably said it completely wrong. She points out a conversation between Kirk and Spock informs us for the very first time that when Starfleet members are on a planet, they are subject to the laws of the planet. This is a very interesting development with repercussions throughout all the Star Trek series that came after it. She also wrote, this episode showcases Kirk's loyalty to his crewmen, as well as Kirk and Spock's synergy while engaging in completely random speculation. Zach Hanlon, again, down here at the bottom, dismissed most of the story as not having enough drafts, saying that it has its own strong idea. But what's so weird is the way that idea is actually doesn't actually surface until the last 10 minutes of the episode. So I agree with him on that there. That's the pacing. That's the problem. There's a few breadcrumbs there that you would have wanted earlier in the episode, and then expand on them ever so slightly until you get that final little showdown with Jack the Ripper, essentially. He considered the strongest section to be when Red Jack invades the computer. Again, I agree with that. Sure, the Enterprise computer's been screwed with before, but hearing a disembodied voice screaming for your death is very spooky, as is the vision of hell or coloured mist we get on the computer display screens. There's some clever bits that come out of dealing with a possessed ship. So again, this guy Zach Hanlon, like, so some of the times he posts things that I don't necessarily agree with him all the time, but he's hitting on all the same sort of notes that I kind of had for the episode as well. Again, the Enterprise getting possessed is an interesting one, and perhaps somewhere in the franchise there is an episode about a possessed starship, but if there is, I haven't seen it, but it's definitely something that would be interesting. And 2014, Charlie Jane Andrews at IO9 ranked Wolf in the Fold as the 76th best episode of Star Trek in the list of the top 100 Star Trek episodes. 2017, Heroes and Icons noted this episode as featuring scary Star Trek content, noting that it ties in to the story of Jack the Ripper. Yeah. So, it's reception pretty much. Most of the stuff that I went across there, I agree with the vast majority of it. It's one of those episodes that it's good, it's decent. Probably not the rewatchability factor of this episode's maybe not that high, but it's not the weakest of the Star Trek episodes. It's good to see an episode where Scotty is pretty much in the forefront of it. Scotty is a brilliant character. We all love Scotty, and he definitely has a good bit of comedy relief whenever he's on screen, but to see him going through something like this in the episode shows his range as an actor. Fantastic. But again, if you are I don't know how to put this into words without really insulting people, but if you're a little modern snowflake. This is probably not the episode for you to check out as your first Star Trek episode, and I'm not the first person, not the only person to say it. Somebody else in that there, and that reception said the same thing about the, yeah, that's just like, it is what it is. This was made back in the time where, people weren't scared of hurting the feelings of the viewers. They're going to make something that had a little story, an interesting story to tell. They were going to do it, and the fear of snowflakes didn't stop anybody back then. And something that the entertainment industry is sorely lacking these days, in all fairness. So I enjoyed it. Not the strongest episode, but not the worst ever. I think that's going to do it for this episode before I do slip up and say something really offensive to the snowflake. Right, I'm going to go. If you want to get in contact with me again, Sceam Me Up Botty, gmail.com. Let me know your thoughts on this episode. If you did enjoy it, share it along, do all the good social media stuff. I will love you forever. And again, check out the website coinsagemedia.com for absolutely everything else that we're producing these days. Alright guys, stay safe, and I will talk to you in the next episode. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you so much for listening.